Hello my dear friends, you're in the middle of Samaru channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 24 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the conflict on the territory of Ukraine, where during the previous night between the 5th and the 6th of April of 2026, the Ukrainians carried out one of the biggest attacks in the direction of the southern parts of Russia. As you can see, we received lots of icons from this area. The first thing that was published yesterday, that was a very interesting situation, that the Russian bulk carrier carrying a cargo of wheat sank in the Sea of Azov as a result of an attack by Ukrainian drones, Kherson Oblast Governance Salda reported. So this is a very interesting situation, that bulk carrier was damaged in this area, and this is probably the first case when a vessel or a tanker or a ship, commercial ship, was destroyed on the territory of the Azov Sea. Now let's return back to the massive attack in the southern direction. This picture was published by pro-Ukrainian sources during the night, and according to this picture and according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Ukrainians used approximately 230 drones and 4 jet-powered drones, and they were attacking in the direction of the city of Novorossiysk. The Russians stated that overnight they destroyed significant number of drones. For example, between 8 and 11 p.m. the Russians destroyed 148 drones, and overnight the Russians destroyed additional 50 drones over the territory of the Russian Federation. As for the city of Novorossiysk, during the night we received lots of updates from this area, lots of videos. For example, here we can see a port infrastructure of the city of Novorossiysk that was damaged as a result of Ukrainian attack with hundreds of drones. Here we can see the moments how civilians were making a video somewhere from the central part of the city. Here we can see explosions. Here we can see Ukrainian drones flying over the city of Novorossiysk. Here we can see the moments when a drone struck the high-rise building in this area. Here we can see another video published by civilians where we can see explosions and where we can see how a building in the central part of the city was damaged significantly. Here we can see another video, another attack on the building. So lots of damage the Ukrainians managed to deal, and the most important, the Ukrainians damaged the port infrastructure. So and as we know, the Russians are using the port infrastructure of Novorossiysk for many purposes, for military purposes and for export oil purposes. So that was a very big attack carried out by the Ukrainians. The Russians during the night also attacked the territory of Ukraine, and the Ukrainian sources stated that overnight the Russians used 141 drones to attack the territory of Ukraine. The Ukrainians are saying that during the previous days the Russians began bombing and attacking the Pavlograd, the Poltava region and the Sumy region significantly. For several days in a row, strikes have been carried out on Ukrainian Naftogaz facilities. Drones attacked a gas production facility in the Poltava region overnight, which had already been shelled the previous day, the company reported. Another oil and gas facility in the Sumy region was also hit. A fire broke out there after the drones landed. So this is the city, the Sumy region. Here we can see the moments of how the Russians were attacking these territories. You can see lots of explosions were recorded. Some facility was damaged significantly. As you can see, the Russians destroyed the oil reservoir on the territory of this facility as a retaliatory strike on the Ukrainian attacks on similar objects on the territory of the Russian Federation. And here we can see the Poltava region, and here we can see a fire anomaly on the territory of this area. So a gas well in Poltava appears to be on fire, presumably a result of a Russian strike. So as we can see, both the Russians and the Ukrainians continue attacking each other. We see that currently nobody is ready for a negotiation process, despite the fact that a lot of statements on this matter were stated by different sources. Witkoff and Kushner may come to Kiev after Easter. Senator Lindsey Graham will likely also be there, Budanov said. According to the head of the president's office, the key issue for Ukraine is security guarantees from the United States in the event of a possible agreement with Russia. So maybe the delegation of the United United States of America is going to come to Ukraine, probably to discuss the final agreement, the final security agreement that could be signed by the United States of America after the end of the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. But it seems that this might not even happen. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation on the ground during the previous 12 hours, 24 hours. Additional changes were recorded. And first, let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction, where both the Russians and the Ukrainians are attacking each other. First, let's talk about the western Zaporozhye direction, and these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is, for example, the end of the 4th of April of 2026. This is the end of the 5th, and this is the beginning of the 6th of April of 2026. According to these pictures and these updates, the Ukrainians are keeping counter-offensive operation in the direction of the city by the name of Stepnogorsk. The Ukrainians, according to neutral mappers, managed to improve their positions to the north of the settlement of Stepnogorsk, and the Ukrainians managed to improve their positions significantly on the territory of the settlement of Novoyakovlivka. We have even a video where we could see how Russians were attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine on the territory of the settlement. So based on these videos, we have adjusted the map. Furthermore, we have additional and huge changes on the eastern Zaporozhye direction. As you can see, the Russians managed to improve their position significantly. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 4th of April, this is the end of the 5th of April, and this is the beginning of the 6th of April of 2026. Pro-Ukrainian sources published a video where we could see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians like exactly along this line. We're talking about not just attacks on sabotage and reconnaissance groups of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. We're talking about attacks on Russian major positions. So based on this video, we won't watch this video due to casualties, but based on this video, we have adjusted the map. So we have colored the entire pocket to the east of the settlement of Gulyai-Polska and the complete control of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. As you can see, there used to be a big gray zone, but now we have colored the territory under complete Russian control. Furthermore, according to neutral mappers and according to pro-Russian sources, the armed forces of the Russian Federation managed to improve their position significantly, and basically the clashes for the settlement of Gulyai-Polska have begun. The Russians entered the settlement of Gulyai-Polska from the east and from the northeast, and currently there are very heavy clashes for the settlement, and we believe that in coming days the map would be adjusted significantly in this area, and we will color the settlement of Gulyai-Polska under complete Russian control. And then the battle for the settlement of Novorossiysk begins, and if the Ukrainians lose control over the settlement of Novorossiysk, then we can start saying that the battle for Orekhov agglomeration begins as well. The Ukrainians from their side are counter-attacking in the northern direction around the settlements of Ternovata, Boykovo, Razdvyanka and Vyzdvizhivka. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 3rd of April of 2026, this is the end of the 4th of April, this is the end of the 5th of April, and this is the beginning of the 6th of April of 2026. The Ukrainians, according to these reports, managed to improve their position significantly to the south of the settlement of Ternovata, Kosovtseva and Pridorozhne. So it seems that Ukrainians are trying to encircle the Russians who are currently located on the territory of the settlement of Ternovata. So it seems that in coming days the Russians and the Ukrainians will continue fighting for this pocket. The Ukrainians would try to encircle the Russians and to create a cauldron. The Russians will try to hold their positions, and we believe that in coming days the Russians will launch counterattacks with the purpose to maintain the corridor for supply support and evacuation. Furthermore, we have readjusted back the territory of the village of Boykovo. I would like to remind you that several days ago, more precisely on the 1st of April of 2026, pro-Russian sources published a video and made a report that they managed to capture the settlement of Boykovo, but 3 days after, the Ukrainians carried out a counter-offensive operation in this area, and as a result of a counter-offensive operation, the Ukrainians managed to restore complete control over the settlement. Telling the truth, we believe that the village of Boykovo is in the gray zone because neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians have strong control over the territory, but obviously there are very heavy clashes for some minor control or something like this. The Russians are keeping advancing in the northern Zaporozhye direction, and during the previous 24 hours, lots of videos were published from the area of Ternova. We have a video confirming that the Russians are about to recapture the settlement completely and to force the Ukrainians to fall back. Furthermore, we received lots of updates from the area of the village of Berezova. In this video, we can see how Ukrainians were attacking positions of the armed forces of the Russian Federation in this area. Based on this video, we came to the conclusion that the Russians have recaptured the settlement of Berezova. I would like to remind you that according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the settlement of Berezova is under complete control of the armed forces of Ukraine. For example, this is the map by the end of the 1st of April, when most of these territories were colored as a gray zone, or the territories under control of the armed forces of Ukraine. But now we have enough of proof to make a conclusion that the Russians are counter-attacking, and the Russians are trying to restore control over everything they lost during the Ukrainian February and March counter-offensives. The Dobropolye direction. During the previous 24 hours, additional changes were recorded to the southeast of the settlement. This is the end of the 4th of April, as you can see, and from this very moment it seems that the Ukrainians launched counterattacks and restored control over the territories between the settlements of Belitsk and Novodonbass. So the Ukrainians are trying to do everything they can with the purpose not to allow the Russians to shorten the distance to the city of Dobropolye itself, because the city of Dobropolye is a case city in this area, and if Ukrainians lose control over the city of Dobropolye, the Russians will enter the Dnipropetrovsk operational space, and the Russians will continue advancing further in the northwestern direction, and it seems that nobody will be able to stop the Russians, because when talking about the settlement of Dobropolye and when talking about the territory further in the northwestern direction, the nearest city, a more or less big city, is the city of Lazova. And between the settlement of Dobropolye and Lazova, there are just small villages and towns, which obviously would be very difficult terrain foothold for the Ukrainians to control and to protect territories. The distance between Dobropolye and Lazova is around 70 kilometers, which means that up to 50 or even 60 kilometers of these territories the Russians would be able to pass with less resistance from the Ukrainian side. The Konstantinovka direction, we have adjusted the map, we added additional gray zone, we have additional infiltration area that was created or expanded by Russians. The clashes are taking place already in the central part of the settlement of Dovga Balka, but at the same time the Ukrainians managed to counterattack in the area of the village of Vilinka and to restore control over some territories. The Russians are keeping bombing the city of Konstantinovka with aviation, trying to break the resistance of the armed forces of Ukraine, but still the Ukrainians hold their positions. The Slaviansk direction. During the previous day, we received a very interesting video from the area of Krivo Luka. This video, we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians in this area, and this attack, this episode took place along this road somewhere here, but as of the morning of the 6th of April, I am not sure how to adjust the map. Either we need to color everything to the east of this point, including this stronghold, or just this line. So we will think about this during the day, and we will adjust the map before the next video. The Russians are keeping bombing the city of Liman with bombs, with aviation, trying to break the Ukrainian resistance as well. But the Ukrainians, as for the city of Liman, also hold their lines. The northern directions. During the previous 24 hours, small changes and updates were recorded along the border. Today, pro-Ukrainian sources published the video, this one, how Ukrainians were counter-attacking in this area, and pro-Ukrainian sources are saying that as a result of a counter-offensive operation, the Ukrainians managed to recapture these two big forests along the border. As of now, we haven't received even a single episode, even through this video, where we could see or geolocate this additional progress on the ground, but this is what the Ukrainians claim as of the morning of the 6th of April. So most likely, we have updates that maybe we will in coming days adjust the map in this area in the Ukrainian favor. We have covered most of the updates regarding the conflict on the territory of Ukraine. Now let's discuss the situation in the Middle East. We received lots of very important updates and statements about the conflict. And probably the most important thing is that the President of the United States of America set a deadline for the Iranians, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So the Iranians have just 2 days to make a deal with the United States of America. Otherwise, the United States of America will bomb the Iranians and their infrastructure significantly, taking them into the Middle Ages. The US, Iran, and a group of regional mediators are discussing the term for a potential 45-day ceasefire that could lead to a permanent end to the war, according to four US, Israeli, and regional sources with knowledge of the talks. At the same time, we received a report that Iran responded to demands to unblock the Strait of Hormuz. Officials stated that the strait would only be opened after a compensation for damages was paid under a new legal regime using transit fees. Tehran reacted to threats to bomb Iran's bridges and power stations, accusing the US of desperation and anger. So these are the statements from their sides. Once again, the President of the United States of America emphasized that if they don't come through, they're going to lose every power plant and every other plant in the whole country. If they don't do something by Tuesday evening, they won't have any power plants and they won't have any bridges standing. That country will take 20 years to rebuild if they're lucky, if they have a country. That was stated by the President of the United States of America on the matter of the conflict on the territory of the Middle East. And meanwhile, the clashes and probably big problems continue brewing and happening on the territory of the Middle East. But as for the current situation, the most important updates were taken in the southwestern parts of Iran around the city of Isfahan, where during the previous 48 hours, the United States of America were carrying out a rescue operation. We have a lot of updates in this matter. Today we received additional updates, and according to latest report, under cover of darkness, around 100 US Special Operations personnel infiltrated deep into Iran and moved through rugged mountainous terrain south of Tehran. They climbed a 7,000-foot ridge to reach the stranded airmen and successfully made contact. The officer had reportedly sprained his ankle and was hiding in a crevice on a hilltop, using survival and evasion techniques after ejecting. Before rescuing, forces moved in. He had to authenticate his identity to ensure US troops were not being lured into Iranian trap. And the US authorities, the US special forces, managed to evacuate the pilot, but as a result of this operation, the United States of America suffered losses. We're talking about vehicles, equipment, and assets. The sources are saying that after evacuating the second crew member of the downed F-15s, the US had to destroy two HC Combat King II rescue aircraft and two helicopters that, for unknown reasons, were unable to leave Iran. The aircraft were blown up on the ground to prevent them from falling into Iranian hands after landing at an improvised refueling site. 3 additional Combat King II aircraft were then dispatched to continue the combat search and rescue mission. In this video, we can see the consequences of this destruction of these aircrafts that were involved in this operation. Here we can see lots of parts that the planes were destroyed completely without any chances to make anything with these parts or something like this. Here we have additional pictures about the situation in this area after the United States of America finished its evacuation operation. These are parts of aircrafts and helicopters that were destroyed by the US Special Forces. The most important thing is that the United States of America were using a lot of forces, and they were at a very high risk of being damaged or attacked by the Iranian air defense forces. US forces carried out extensive air support during the search and rescue mission in southwestern Iran, conducting large-scale strikes with every tactical jet in the US inventory, including B-1 bombers, to keep Iranian forces away from the search area and protect the downed airmen, according to Fox News. Furthermore, the United States of America were using aircraft And for example, in this video, we can see the special operation aircraft that was spotted flying low over western Iran. The aircraft is linked to the 427 Special Operations Squadron. The unit specializes in covert insertion extraction missions, so he was flying at a very low altitude. Furthermore, we received reports during the day about very heavy clashes between special forces of the United States of America and the Iranian military forces, and there was a combat. The sources reported about wounded, but let's wait and see what is going to be next. But from one side, that was a very dangerous situation, operation that was a very expensive operation, but the operation, as you can see, was successful when talking about the fact that pilots were rescued and evacuated. From the other side, the Iranians are keeping this control over the Strait of Hormuz, but according to information we have, 15 ships passed through the Strait of Hormuz within 24 hours after obtaining a permission from Iran. And here we can see a picture where we can see at least 3 oil tankers and 2 gas carriers are moving along a previously approved road as agreed with Iran. The Iraqi foreign minister has also expressed gratitude to the Iranian ambassador in Baghdad for allowing tankers with Iraqi oil to pass. So this is a new regime, a new legal regime, regime of legislation of this area, and as you can see, the Iranians control the situation completely. But as of me, one thing is clear, that if the United States of America in days will abandon the Epic Fury operation and they will leave the area of the Middle East, because according to the understanding of Trump, the mission is completed, of course, then we need to understand that the states like United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Doha, Kuwait will start attacking probably vessels or blocking vessels that are moving through the Strait of Hormuz under the permission of the Iranian side. Because if they are not allowed to use this Strait of Hormuz for their purposes, obviously they will try to make everything to not allow the Iranians to have control over this territory as well. So the situation is very complicated, and even if the United States of America leaves this region, and even if the Iranians reported about their control over the Strait of Hormuz, it doesn't mean that this situation cannot be broken by any other country. And of course, we received lots of updates. The Strait of Hormuz will never return to normal, especially for the US and Israel. That was stated by the Iranian commanders. And Iranian officials say that the Strait of Hormuz will reopen only if war damages are paid through a new legal regime. So we're talking about lots of money, of course. Iran will not open the Strait of Hormuz and has refused to respond to yet another American ceasefire proposal. We are talking about 45 days proposal, the ceasefire proposal that was made by the United States of America these days. So Tuesday evening, we are waiting for these dates. The oil prices right now are on the level of $110 per barrel plus minus, but obviously that's on Wednesday morning. We'll see and we'll face completely different reality when talking about oil prices, because they will rise, and most likely the Iranians will not accept any proposal or any deal from the US side. And that's it for the short video. The Military with Summary channel reminds us to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.